Hi, this is Yaakov Hirsch, and I've been thinking about one of my favorite expressions, which is anything worth doing is worth doing badly. I was trying to think of the best way to say what I want to say, and and then I realized if it's so important, if what I have to say is so important, then it really doesn't matter if I don't say it so well. So I'm just going to start talking and see what happens. Um, what I think the biggest problem we have in this country right now is that no one understands the president, Donald Trump. Uh, and I think someone has to try to understand Donald Trump, and then we will take it from there. But what's happening now is it's almost a demonization or a dehumanization where Donald Trump is not even looked at like a normal human being, like a human being. Meaning, we know that Trump has these idiosyncrasies to be kind, and everyone in the quote media is just bombarding out so much stuff, noise about Trump. It's impossible to even make sense. I mean, of what's important and what's not. How are we to know what's important or what's not that the president says? It's impossible because there's so much noise coming from the media. And I'll give you an example. Peter Baynard wrote a column saying, "What does it mean that Donald Trump is not, apologize or not apologizing, is not responding to all these questions about anti-Semitism, which he's been asked many times and which happened in the campaign. And each time he reacts, however he reacts, but clearly he's not doing what people are expecting him to do. Now that demands an answer. And isn't it good if we could get the best answer to that question? Or how about the truth? What is the truth to that question? How are we to find out why Trump is not saying, "Hey, America, don't worry," or American Jewish community, "Don't worry, I'm on top of it. I have my people looking at it. No one's going to be." He could make in 5 minutes, he could make every Jew in America say, "Wow, Trump is on top of it." But he is not doing that, which raises a question why. But no one is even talking about why, because that's what dehumanization means. That is a real question because there is an answer to that question. If Ivanka says, "Hey, Dad, why don't you tell the American people about this anti-Semitism? Make all, people are calling me. The ADL is calling me, Ivanka." What would happen if Ivanka is telling that to her dad? You know, what would he say? There is an answer to that question, right? But no one in the media, in quotes, even thinks in those terms. They just say, "Oh my God, blah, blah, blah." You know, they just call him names and judge and this and that. Fine, if that's what you want to do, do. But someone needs to figure out why is it that he's not condemning anti-Semitism, right? And the problem is everyone is getting their own interpretation, and if you get the wrong interpretation, there's someone I respect as a journalist in the Haaretz who is interpreting Trump's behavior in a in almost the worst possible way. I don't think that's reality. I think if Trump would have that conversation with Ivanka, he would answer honestly. And so what I'm trying to say, it is possible for Trump to be honest. If you listen to Trump, you know, you will hear his perspective if you're listening. Now, then we could decide whatever we want about his perspective. But his perspective is impossible to understand. It's impossible to get at, to gather. So Peter Baynard wrote this article in the forward. You know, why is Trump not answering these questions? And his analysis is that it's narcissism. Okay, that is not the. I don't believe that that's correct. That's not the reason that he wouldn't. It would be very clear if we were a fly in the wall at the White House when Trump would have his conversation with Ivanka about why he's not quote condemning anti-Semitism. It wouldn't be the narcissistic Trump that we see. We know there's a narcissistic Trump. So let me demonstrate what that So I think everyone should agree it would be good to know when the president is lying, when he's exaggerating, when he's really trying to be quote good, when he's fighting with the media, when he's sending little messages to his quote people, whatever. These are important things to know. But if you listen to the media, that's not even the language they're talking. That is, there's a different agenda, if that's the right word. Of course, a lot of the things that the media says are correct. A president needs to behave a certain way, and Donald Trump is not behaving that way by any stretch of the imagination. And he keeps on repeating untruths over and over and over again. Let me use that um, let me use that example of the amount of electoral votes he got as an example, right? So it's important for America to know if this is a big deal, whatever happens. So this is Trump's story, in quotes, which from listening to him, I could be wrong about this, but my hunch from looking at him is it's true. Someone handed him a piece of paper. I don't know what the conversation was. And he's like, hey, you guys are not giving me credit for my victory. And he reads from the piece of paper. It's the greatest electoral college victory, whatever, whatever. Now that, if you look at Trump, it's not an intentional lie, that number. It's clear. You look at him, he's not lying because, oh, I'm going to get away with a lie here. He really thought, he's reading off something, he believes it's true. Okay. Now, from Trump's perspective, he didn't do anything wrong. Okay, maybe he should have, of course, we're deep in the game of Trump's problems of, with the truth. So there's a lot of history here. But Trump is not thinking about that history. I'm giving Trump's experience of the world. And his experience of the world is he came out, gave his whole thing, and someone gave him a sheet and he's saying, oh, we had a great victory, the best victory since Reagan, greatest victory. Now, if someone were to tell him, hey, Mr. Trump, that happens and not true. He'd say, oh, okay, sorry. Is there anything else I can say that'll make me look good? That's where his mind is at. But to his mind, that's all it is. It's not a big deal. Now, if the media looks at that mistake of the electoral college vote and the biggest victory since Trump as a big deal, then there's a problem because it's not a big deal. Now, it is a big deal that Trump can't apologize or can't say, hey, sorry, man, or sorry, people, or that was a mistake. Clearly, we have, and that's a history that Trump has with the media and what happens. But you have to define, the American people need to understand which Donald Trump is speaking. So when Donald Trump is talking about one state, two state, during the Love Fest with BB in quotes, it's important to know, is Donald Trump just saying, oh, whatever, one state, two state, or did he have a meeting with someone and say, okay, I'm going to say one state? Now, if you're not thinking about experiencing the world through Donald Trump's perspective, everything's a riddle and a mystery. But if you just listen to him, it's clear when he's saying something serious and when it's not. And okay, so I'm going to calm down because not an effective way to communicate to rant the way I think I've been ranting. But before each of these few audios I've done, I said, okay, I'm going to try to be calm, and that lasts about 4 seconds because I get a little caught up in this material, which I feel passionate about, and it's very aggravating. It causes me pain. When I listen to Jake Tapper, I feel physical pain in my body, which I will get to a little later. Soon, not too later. So I am going to try to roll take with Donald Trump, and let's see what happens. Now, I am going to honestly try to experience the world from Donald Trump's perspective. Now, there are clearly things that don't really reflect reality, and we're just going to see what happens. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to the news conference where Donald Trump was asked, tell us about the firing of Flynn, General Flynn. Why did he get fired? So what happened after that? That is, I am going to give you what I think is the Trump now Trump is speaking. I'm going to speak as if I'm Trump. So this is Trump saying, okay, Flynn, you want to know what happened? This is what happened. So it turns out Flynn was, speaking to a lot of different countries, 30 some odd countries, and he did a great job. At first there was some media report. First, you guys gave us a bad reporting, and it turns out it's not true. I think Eli Lake, everyone is talking about. Yaakov Hirsch here speaking, can't read Eli Lake no matter what because I've read some Eli Lakes in the past. So uh, let's leave Eli Lake out of it. But I think Eli Lake said that what Flynn did was um, totally okay. It's a normal. Like people talk, like the people going into his position, whether it was the national security advisor, they tell the people that they can end up speaking with that what's happening, what to be prepared for. So as long as there's nothing nefarious going on, there's no everything should be okay. So this is Donald Trump saying, I looked into it, and I think this is Eli. Like even you guys admit that Flynn didn't do anything wrong. Now it turns out, as this is Yaakov Hirsch speaking again, someone else, it turns out that Flynn was actually try to stop the settlement resolution that became a whole big deal as working for Trump. So he was speaking to these countries just to show those people are still. I'm no expert in any of these things, but just to give you a sense that he's not like busy with Russia. I would guess he was very busy with all these countries trying to stop this resolution. So this is Trump's perspective. Now, so why I fired Flynn? It turns out that Flynn wasn't so honest or whatever happened when he told the vice president who was sitting over here. Now, however, so in Trump's mind, that is the long of and short of the story, or beginning and end. Now, clearly, that's not the way the world works. If there's something like Flynn, you hired him, you fired him, a normal president would stand there and answer questions for as long as the media wants to ask. That's the way the world used to work, right? But Trump doesn't. Now we have to understand whether it should be like that or it shouldn't be like that. This is the way it is. Trump doesn't go by those rules, right? He doesn't say, oh, did I satisfy you, media? In his mind, the media should be satisfied and the American people should be satisfied because in his mind, this is true. And asking me, Yaakov Hirsch, I believe him. I look at him and I say, yeah, everything he said about Russia there, you look at him and you see this man believes what he is saying. And that's an important thing to know when you're listening to the president. Is he lying or does he actually believe what he's saying? What was he saying about Flynn? He's saying, listen, you know what the real story is? Flynn is nothing. He did nothing wrong. He had some miscommunication, whatever, with the vice president. That doesn't have anything even to do with you guys, media and the American people, right? He's a good guy doing his job. I fired him. End of story. And there's no Russia. There's no Russia story. This has nothing to do with Russia. And then he got worked up because his experience of the world is his relationship to the media is one where the media is clearly not reporting the reality that he experiences it. So therefore, so he's saying, look, the reality right now is this is not the story. And then he goes into the whole Mexico thing because this is Donald Trump's experience of the world. He had this meeting with Mexico, or conversation. Think about Donald Trump. He's the head of all these businesses, probably a little concerned about security, right? These phone calls, sees maybe enemies everywhere, maybe the governments, who knows, right? I'm sure Donald Trump likes to know when he's having a conversation in Trump Tower, no one else is listening to it, right? Now he becomes president, and think about this. He picks up the phone and these things finally. One of the perks, which he didn't even think about maybe before, is I could talk to anyone and it's secret. It's like, wow. And of course, the other side better not leak this stuff. So he has this conversation with the president of Mexico and Australia and with someone else, and this stuff is leaked to the press. And then he goes on and he's like, imagine, and again, so it's Donald Trump explaining his experience of the world. He said, imagine I'm having the conversation and then I don't know if he read about it and somewhere, he read about it in a newspaper or that, so this is someone who works for him or works for the government while Donald Trump is doing the people's business, leaks it to the press, and this is normal. Imagine how this crazy it makes him. And he says, imagine it was okay. He's saying now Donald Trump is being objective in his mind. He's saying, okay, this is Mexico, Australia. Imagine it was North Korea. Imagine some guy leaked So he has this experience of this is the worst thing in the world, that he could not do it. What he could not be president without this other thing going on about it being leaked and dealing with it and yada yada. So that's Donald Trump's experience of the world. And he believes, and this is very important to understand, he believes it's so self-evident that this is his experience, that this is reality, you know, and he has 1,000 examples in his mind where the media did this to him before, where he's like, hey, clearly this is, quote, objective reality. Even Eli Lake says that Flynn didn't do anything wrong. So what do you guys want? You know? So in his mind, this really is not a story. This is not lying. This is not sending messages to his fan. This is not fighting with the media. This is like, hey, this is the truth. And he's ready to swear on a stack of Bibles that this is the truth. And that's why, if you listen to him, he starts talking about Jeff Zucker. If I think that's Jeff Zucker is someone in CNN or in charge of news, that he's saying there must be some conspiracy in some way why you guys are on not covering the real story, which is the leaks. And then again, and he's having, think about this, he's having a conversation with himself, or a conversation with, in his mind. He says, if you guys were honest about Russia, I have nothing with Russia. Someone told him about someone told him clearly, someone told him about this Hillary Clinton 50% uranium thing. Of course, it's meaningless. And I mean, I don't know if it's meaningless, but in Trump's perspective, what is he doing with this information? Someone told him that this was a bad deal that Hillary did with Russia, right? With this uranium. And he goes on, uranium, it's very easy to make fun of him, but we need to understand, make fun of him if you want, but first get what he's talking about. Someone told him that Hillary Clinton that it was a bad deal with this uranium for whatever reason. So he's telling everyone, if you guys were really honest worried about Russia, what about the bad deal? And that's what over and over he goes back to in this news conference. This whole thing is fake, you guys. Your questions aren't real. Your questions are meant to trap me. You guys are not interested in the truth. Because if you guys were interested in the truth, Trump in his mind is ready to give 1,000 examples where it's so obvious what the truth is, and you guys covered it up, yada, yada, yada. Now, okay, just a second. I'm going to take some water. And, okay, if you think about the things he says in that context during the news conference, he keeps on talking about a double standard. He says, you guys are caught up with me. Look at Hillary, and it's not, what is the argument? Why is he mentioning Hillary? His basic point is he's expressing how sure he is that his experience of the world is correct. And that's why he tells the journal, he says, I'm on your side. Look at your ratings. You guys would get better ratings if you told the truth. Don't you realize the American people know I'm telling the truth? He's like he's trying to reason with the media. I have reality. You guys are doing your nonsense, your fake news because of a whole bunch of different reasons, because you're all on Hillary Clinton's side. And he gives examples and say, see the double standard? If it was me, da 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 da. If it was me, da 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 da. Now, what do we need to do? We need to know that this is him pleading with the media, or pleading with his people, or having this argument with himself, what reality is. Now, the whole discussion makes sense. The whole news conference makes sense. He has a history. He keeps on saying it's not, and which is what I wanted to spend more time with the anti-Semitism thing, but I guess I'll talk about it now. This is how he experiences this anti-Semitism charge. He doesn't believe it's an honest, he doesn't believe that there are people, this is not how he understands, hey, apologize for anti-Semitism, or say, he thinks it's a trick. It's not real. It's used for political purposes, for political gain. That is his experience with the whole anti-Semitism thing during the campaign. Now, we could have a whole discussion how much of it was political, not political, but if that is how Donald Trump experiences the world, that when someone says, hey, apologize for anti-Semitism, it's his enemies put this fake news out there that Donald Trump is anti-Semitic, or that Donald Trump has some connection with the anti-Semites out there, or any of those things which Donald Trump thinks is convinced that it's just a way to make him look bad. That's what this is all about. That I believe that that's the truth, and that's what I have to say about Baynard's column. This is what's going on. It's not narcissism. It's like you're making someone. I mean, you're making someone do something they don't want to do because I mean, it's imagine a brother and sister get into a fight, and the parent says, "Apologize to your sister," and the the brother says, "No, it's our fault. I'm not going to apologize." And the parents say, "Apologize." "No, I'm not going. Apologize." "No, I'm not going to." That's what's happening here. He does not want to apologize because it's not his fault. He's not an anti-Semite, and when he says he's the least anti-Semitic person in the world, that's the way Donald Trump talks. Now we need to get used to that. That's when he says when he hears chaos, what does Donald Trump hear when he hears in the media chaos? He thinks, what do you mean? We have a fine oiled machine, a fine tuned machine. And again, why? And if there is, and again, that's the way he talks, right? That's the way he speaks. He thinks of certain accomplishments he did. And he's like, oh, that really well. The American people realize it. And then he sees chaos. You know, he feels good that he handled certain problems that came up really well. He says, imagine, and that's how he started the news company. He says, the mess I got left with? This is Donald Trump honestly speaking, not tricks, not lies. Donald Trump is saying, oh my God, I don't know if this is true or not true. I don't know how it compares with any other administration. I don't know how to answer any of these questions. All I'm saying is I'm looking at Donald Trump and I'm saying this man is speaking his experience of the world. Now, every part of now, so think about the anti-Semitism. So the people who are worried about what it means that the president is not is not responding to anti-Semitism, don't worry. It's not that he is, you know, doesn't think he doesn't think it's bad for Jews to be picked on. He doesn't think it's a real issue. If he believed, if someone that he trusted, told him, no, 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 this is not those people, and you need to really, if someone convinced him that it wasn't his enemies that was forcing him to do this, he would do it. But right now, for whatever reason, which is a whole other discussion, it's the same thing with racism. That's why he says, you guys, people see through you. Everyone knows I'm the least anti-Semitic person in the world. Okay, maybe he's not the least anti-Semitic person in the world, but in his mind, the charge of anti-Semitism or tarring him in any way to anti-Semitism is the most outrageous thing in the world. So when he took that question, he interpreted that question from that guy from the Frum guy who supported him, the Orthodox guy who supported him. What did he hear? He heard, oh my God, that's the trap. That's the ruse. That's the fake news. You bought into it true. Don't you know that that's a trick? That's the that's what he said. That's not a simple question. That's not an innocent question. Now, should we panic? We should panic that about our that maybe Donald Trump is our president, but we should not panic that Donald Trump doesn't care if Jews start getting beaten in the streets, right? I mean, I think that point should be understood. But when the whole media doesn't even attempt to role take, to even understand Donald Trump's perspective, if it's become so taboo to even, he's just a liar and a racist and a Nazi and an authoritarian, we have a problem because Donald Trump sees himself not like those things. And when he accomplishes something, and then he looks at the media, think about the word he used over and over and over again. He said hate. I think he was talking about Jake Tapper show at 10 o'clock CNN. I don't know. I don't watch it. But he said he over and over. He said hate, venom. He didn't say that to get votes. He said that because when he likes to watch TV, he knows what good he considers himself a media critic. This is his experience of the world. He knows when he does wrong. He even feels good if you know his experience of the world is if he didn't do something good and he sees a reporter criticize him, he says, okay, I deserve that criticism. He does not know what it means to be president and for every single day just reading the worst things about you for years and years and years. That's not his world. He doesn't. He can't even roll tech. He thinks, hey, if I'm good, I want to get credit or whatever. That's not clearly when he turns on CNN. He's not seeing the world he's expecting. So that is what he's reacting to. But it's not. But when he says hate, we have to understand what does Donald Trump mean when he feels hate? Because if we could maybe eliminate the hate that Donald Trump feels, maybe that would be good for the country. Now, clearly, if it's Jake Tapper, and I like to think of him as Rabbi Tapper, because anytime and I've heard so little of him, but he just sounds like he should be like a conservative rabbi, or I don't know, some rabbi giving a little Friday night, uh, a little talk, a little lecture, a little what I forget what the word skips my mind, and he would make a great rabbi, but he's not a journalist. Because so think about when Donald Trump watches the news. This is crazy what he hears from Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper is not discussing, the what happened in the news conference. And think about what Donald Trump said at the beginning at the news conference. He said, "You guys are probably going to say this is a rant," and of course they said it's a rant. Unhinged is what Jake Tapper said. So hold on. So what's happening here? I'm going to pause because I think I've just been ranting. It's been 25 minutes.